I'm in the wars with my four-legged friend.
Yes.
My four-legged enemy. Likes at the moment. I don't know. I mean, you get them to a year and you think, surely they're finished with all this nonsense. And he's just gone crazy eating runners.
Yeah.
Anybody's runners he can get his hands on. The newer, the better. And it's costing me a fortune.
And this is obviously a ferocious pit bull type terrier, is it?
Jack Russell.
Jack Russell, a miniature Jack Russell even.
Well, he never really grew.
Did he not?
Past miniature. Like, he is very, very small. He's still, people stop and laugh at him as we're walking along, which I feel sorry for him. But maybe that's why he has to then
just take out his insecurities on runners.
But the last pair that went were a brand new pair of those Adidas Sambas. Now, when I say brand new, the person who lost these runners had literally bought them the day before. Yeah. First time they'd worn them, and left them in the living room, and he savaged them, the whole back off them, like unsalvageable, you know.
Very frustrating.
Well, it's very expensive. It's very expensive because I do have to kind of go, well, it's my dog, I suppose. And, you know, people don't know that you can't leave anything down.
No.
Like the first pair of runners he went for were mine. These ones I've actually on me because I persisted in wearing them, even though
they've been massacred.
The Onitsuku Tigers. And I've actually ordered myself a pair of them today, a new pair. And I'm going to have to hide them.
Did you give out to them though, when you give out to a dog? And they look shamefaced, but do they understand? Did you like hold the runners up to his face to try and shame him into?
It's just, I know all dogs do it, but he just started it very late in life. And but I see him, like if we're out for a walk, he is, and it's women he goes for, and they're walking ahead of me in a nice pair of runners, and he sort of speeds up and they go, oh look, he's so cute, and he's actually trying to eat the runner while they're on their foot.
Should be telling me if this is a misogynist run.
Yeah, I should. It's up to the ladies. Maybe the men's feet are too big or something, but no, it's frustrating. So yeah, it's 110 quid nearly, or 120 euro each time it costs me.
Yeah.
Because I have to replenish these people whose runners are lost. So yeah, I've called him off air a four-letter word that we shouldn't use about man, woman or beast.
No.
But anyway, that's what he is. He's a little...
Yes.
See you next Tuesday.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about you? Said you had a dog that particularly...
Well, no, there was a dog.
Can you repeat that?
Well, there was a dog in our family, let's put it that way, that used to bark at the disabled. The dog didn't like the disabled for whatever reason. They just... What can you do? Like, it is embarrassing, isn't it?
So embarrassing. Just those people.
Yeah, because it's a beautiful dog. Otherwise, very friendly.
Anyone like in a wheelchair,
I think it was more people that, or just walking a bit funny or whatever. Basically, a sort of Nazi type of dog. You know what I mean? But beautiful otherwise.
Yeah. How do you explain that to anybody?
I don't know. Not easily is the answer.
Speaking of which, explaining not easily.
Yeah.
A story.
Good segue.
A good segue, wasn't it? Like for once, it's me that finds it. But a story that we ran in the Sunday World this weekend. But we're going to talk about it, even though we're a little bit confused somewhat, as is, I think, Gerry The Monk Hutch, who I understand has not been served. But the Garda Commissioner has basically launched this High Court legal action against the monk, against his two co-accused, Jason Bonney and Paul Murphy, who are both serving sentences for, remind me, it was conspiracy, was it?
Yeah, for the roles, I suppose, in the Regency Hotel murder.
Getaway drivers. What's the charge in that? Was it conspiracy?
Well, it was, it was facilitating a crime organisation, basically.
So, anyway, and the Director of Public Prosecutions
which is probably
thrown in.
Yeah, which is the more unusual, I suppose. I mean, the whole thing is unusual. It obviously went first up on one of these internet sort of sleuth sites, I suppose, that takes, it's a site that an internet, Twitter page that keeps a good eye on the court system. So if you file a case in the courts, it goes up on courts.ie, www.courts.ie, and it's listed there. So it's a public document and you can see it. So, just to see the DPP being sued by the Garda Commissioner will be a story alone. But the fact that the defendants are lumped in with Gerry The Monk Hutch and his two co-accused is amazing. Now, as you look
at the face of it, it looks as if the Garda Commissioner is suing the monk and going after his millions. But of course, that's not the case.
No.
This is a civil case?
Well, it's in the High Court. So the case is listed as a special summons. So it's obviously something to do, what it's described as was that it's something to do with a special summons is typically used for cases involving pure issues of the law or very specific issues of fact. Now, that is really, really could cover a multitude of sins. And
what you have to see is from the defendants,
yeah.
It is something to do with the Regency trial.
Yes, 100% it's something
to do.
The
DPP brought those charges. Hutch, Bonney and Murphy stood trial.
Yeah, and obviously the guards investigated the case and then handed it over to the DPP who prosecuted it. So obviously it has to be something to do with that. If you look up a special summons on the court's website, like I think there's 50 possibilities of what it could be. A lot of these special summons are to do with cases involving where people die and there's disputes over will, disputes over ownership, a lot of that sort of stuff. How this fits in, it's really could be anything. Like obviously it's not a damages case because when you first look at it, obviously you see the names and these are High Court cases. So most of them, if it's in the High Court, it's a certain level of damages at least. And most of these cases that are listed in the High Court are to do with, people suing each other. So, and people regularly sue the guards in the High Court. You see that all the time.
The Garda Commissioner is often named in cases.
Yeah, because he represents the guards now. So Drew Harris is obviously the name that's on it and the person that's brought the case. Now that is obviously in his role as the head of the Garda Síochána. It's not on a personal basis.
And who's representing him?
He's represented by the Chief State Solicitor's Office. So he's not being represented by a private law firm or anything of the sort. So this is obviously something very specific. Now, what it could possibly be, I thought loads of people in the legal system.
Yeah,
and
we were discussing this between ourselves on Saturday as well. And people are confused as regards what it is. But the suggestions put forward is that this could be something to do with transcriptions in the trial. It could be something to do with the tapes. Yeah. It could be something to do with locking down a piece of evidence.
It would certainly be very unusual at this point for that to be brought, given the fact that, books of evidence have been served on the defendants, the case is completed. I mean, it really is still very unusual. Obviously, the DPP and the guards are, they're partners in the prosecution that was brought. Obviously, the DPP's office take charge of it. So it's very unusual. Obviously, the DPP, when you normally get a summons, you'd have the DPP versus Gerry Hutch.
In criminal proceedings,
which he's probably had over many, many years. But this time he's on the same side. Now, the other confusing thing about it is, and you can see this in cases where people are being sued, that this was lodged on the 26th of June, so a couple of weeks ago, basically. Now, you lodge cases, would not be uncommon to lodge cases before you serve somebody. So you can see that all the time. The case will be put in, it'll be lodged, and a letter may not have even been written to the person that the case is being brought against. We see that with newspapers from time to time. You'll see these cases lodged and no legal correspondence or complaint has even gone in. So this could well be the case with Gerry Hutch or even the DPP, but we simply don't know, I suppose.
But one way, I think it probably does show that there is something still going on in the mechanism of the Regency investigation. Yeah. That I think probably those who would have been named during the last Regency trial, which was such a failure for the state with somebody as high profile as Gerry The Monk Hutch walking free on a not guilty verdict. There was an attitude after, are they actually going to do any more? Just leave this alone, because it feels as if there's been a lot of either bad decisions or bad luck when it comes to the state around the Regency from the very beginning, really, in the lack of police presence there on the day and all the conspiracy theories that grew with that from the very first trial with Patrick Hutch in the dock, the son of Patsy Hutch in the dock for murder. And of course, that case collapsed because of the death of the senior investigating officer at the time, Colin Fox. And that was really unusual for an all prosequi to be issued in the middle of a trial. And then, of course, the next big high profile return of the monk from Spain, his arrest in a restaurant in Fungarola, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And, was returned to Baldonnel Airport in front of the courts, in custody. Jonathan Dowdall goes state witness. This case has to be a no-brainer. This is finally the end of the Monk, and he walks free. Like, it has been a disaster for the state.
It has. And a lot didn't go the way of the state as well. If you look back on it, like, a lot of these cases, sort of the decisions seem to break in the state's favour. And that's, of course, why one of the great complaints against the Special Criminal Court. But it didn't break in their favour in this case. Certainly, Jonathan Dowdall, we've had witnesses in before, protected witnesses of the type he was. But I don't think any of them have come out with such a negative reference from the judges as Jonathan Dowdall did. Like, obviously this is something to do with the Regency, but what it could be really is a mystery. Now, we put it to the guards, of course, and they did have an answer. The Garda spokesman said, this is a routine matter in the course of An Garda Síochána's work, and An Garda Síochána has nothing further to add. So I suppose maybe they're trying...
That's exactly, my dog should make that statement if I ask him what his issue is and how much does he think he owes me for other people's runners.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is it routine? Well, I mean, certainly somebody in the legal profession I spoke to said, well, it's just not routine.
It's not routine. So it's so unusual. And the fact that certainly we know from sources that the Monk has not been served, and his attitude, or his lawyer's attitude, I think, to it is there's nothing for them to do until and if he is. And, certainly I think the Monk's attitude to all of this is let sleeping dogs lie. He's not going to agitate to try and find out.
No.
They'll come to him if they summons him.
I think obviously the whatever peril he's in, this is not some sort of, charge that's being brought, but whether it's totally routine or not is another matter.
And what do they need this piece of law or documentation or whatever it is for? I mean, delivering her judgment, I think Mrs. Justice Tara Byrne said that, it was the state's case that Hutch was one of the shooters at the Regency, that the evidence didn't sort of stack up to prove that she sort of suggested that had the state or the DPP taken other charges against the Monk, that they might have been provable from the evidence that was available to them. And certainly there was other people named during the trial. I think in particular the standout person was Patsy Hutch. Yeah. His presence during the transfer of the weapons into the car of Shane Rowan before he's caught with those weapons, and various other aspects where he seems to be certainly have
been in the mix.
He's close to a lot of the evidence there. But how many, was it April of...
Yeah, it was April. Yeah, so I mean...
we're a year and a half on and...
I mean, none of whatever this could be about, it can't impact on the trial that's already been decided on. I mean, that is done and dusted. So obviously the Chief State Solicitor's Office is the basically the state's, their own lawyers. But I mean, obviously the DPP are part of the state as well, and that's what makes it so unusual.
Yes, their own lawyers are saying that.
Well, to an extent, I mean, there is a sort of separation of powers and all of that. And
I don't know whether suing is the right word that we're using, but is it?
Well, we didn't use it, but it's legal action. I mean, it does. Suing is not a seeking of personal damages, and this obviously is not Drew Harris seeking personal damages off the Monk or anything like it. But so there is something going on. What it is. It's not fully clear. But it can't necessarily impact on Gerry Hutch. Is there further investigations going on surrounding the Regency, surrounding the Hutch gang as it was laid down in the court case as being involved in the Regency? Like, everything would suggest that there is something going on. That there are further investigations. I think if Jonathan Dowdall had been a successful witness, we would have seen a lot more action in those terms. He could have been brought back again and possibly again if any other names were mentioned or people were brought in. I mean, the fact that that's now approaching, well, it's not approaching, not far off a decade now that shooting occurred, doesn't mean that the guards can't or won't continue to investigate it, and if evidence comes to bring charges. It's actually interesting to hear. There was an interview in the Irish Times actually on the weekend with Justin Kelly, who's sort of the chief of the organised, or one of the chiefs in the organised drugs and crime bureau, and he was talking about the Kinahans and saying they're going to be relentless in the pursuit of them. And one of the things he did say was, just because crimes or murders happened a long, long time ago, it doesn't mean that the charges can't be brought off of them. It's not all about what's going on now at this moment. So I do think that's how these investigations can happen.
And of course we know that there has been a file submitted to the Director of Public Prosecutions in relation to Daniel Kinahan's involvement in the Eddie Hutch murder.
Yeah, his alleged involvement. So I mean, it does show that these things can go on. But what is happening with the Regency investigation? It's hard to know. But I don't think we'll ever see Jonathan Dowdall in a court case, in a courtroom again, giving evidence. I really don't think that.
I certainly hope not. I actually think possibly my dog would be better. Better witness.
At least Bill. Certainly he wouldn't get a fair trial after your treatment of him.
No. I'd have libelled him maybe.
Possibly.
Right. Well, look, I suppose really for the moment it remains somewhat of a mystery what's going on behind the scenes. But as is always good to know, something is going on.
Something is going on, exactly.
Okay, thanks, Niall.
Thanks, Nicola.
I'm Nicola Tallant and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.